The morning sun rose over the fields of Hansong 7, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Ji-woo stood on her porch, watching the crops sway gently in the wind. She held a cup of tea in her hands, feeling its warmth spread through her fingers. This was her favorite time of day, when everything was quiet and peaceful. Inside the small farmhouse, her 3 children were still sleeping. Teo, her 16-year-old son, would wake up soon. He always did, even before his alarm went off. He was responsible like that, always trying to help her with the farm work. Hana, her 12-year-old daughter, would need to be called at least twice before getting out of bed, and little Hyun-woo, only 8 years old, would probably try to hide under his blankets when she came to wake him. Ji-woo smiled at the thought. Her life was simple now, and she liked it that way. She grew vegetables and fruits, sold them at the colony market, and raised her children in peace. Nobody bothered them out here on the outer rim. Most colonists kept to themselves, and that suited her just fine. She walked back inside and started making breakfast. The smell of cooking rice and eggs soon filled the kitchen. As expected, Teo appeared first, his hair messy from sleep. "Good morning, Mom," he said, yawning. "Good morning, my son. Wake your sister and brother, please." Teo nodded and headed to the bedrooms. Ji-woo heard him knocking on doors and speaking softly. A few minutes later, all 3 children sat at the table, eating their breakfast. Hyun-woo's eyes were still half closed, and Hana kept yawning between bites. "What are we doing today?" Hana asked. "School first," Ji-woo replied. "Then you help me in the garden. Teo needs to check the irrigation system. It was making strange noises yesterday. Can we go to town later?" Hyun-woo asked hopefully. "I want to see the new ships at the landing port. Maybe next week," Ji-woo said. After breakfast, the children went to the study room, where they attended their classes through holographic screens. The colony school was on the other side of Hansong 7, too far to travel every day, so most children learned from home. Ji-woo listened to their teachers talking, making sure her children were paying attention. While they studied, she went outside to work in the fields. The soil here was good, rich, and dark. Earth plants grew well in it, though they needed extra care. Ji-woo moved between the rows of vegetables, checking each plant carefully. Some needed water, others needed support, and a few had to be protected from local insects. Around her neck, she wore a simple pendant on a thin chain. It was made of dark metal and showed 2 crossed blades behind a broken crown. She touched it sometimes, without thinking. A habit from long ago. The pendant never left her neck, not even when she slept. At noon, the children finished their classes and came outside to help. Teo went to check the water pipes, while Hana and Hyun-woo helped Ji-woo pull weeds from the garden. The work was hard, but good. Ji-woo believed children should learn to work with their hands, to understand where their food came from. "Mom, tell us about Dad again," Hana said suddenly. Ji-woo's hands stopped moving for a moment. Then she continued pulling weeds, her voice soft. "Your father was a good man. He was kind and gentle. He loved you all very much." "How did he die?" Hyun-woo asked. "An accident," Ji-woo said quietly. "A bad accident. It was a long time ago." This was the story she always told. It was easier than the truth. Easier than explaining things they didn't need to know. Not yet. Maybe not ever. If she was lucky. That afternoon, while the children did their homework, Ji-woo went to the basement. She walked past the storage shelves and stopped in front of a locked door. This room was forbidden to the children. They knew never to ask about it. Never to try to enter it. Ji-woo took a key from around her neck, hidden behind the pendant, and unlocked the door. Inside, the room was dark and cold. She turned on the light. The walls were covered with weapons and military equipment. Old uniforms hung in protective bags. Medals and commendations were displayed in frames, their colors faded with time. In one corner stood a photograph. showing a younger Ji Woo in combat gear, surrounded by other soldiers. They all looked serious, dangerous. She stood there for a moment, looking at her past. Then, she checked the weapons one by one, making sure they were still functional. It was a habit, a routine she followed once every month. She hoped she would never need them again. She had left that life behind for a reason. But hope was different from certainty. Ji Woo locked the room again and went back upstairs. The children were in the living room, watching a show about Earth's oceans. They looked so innocent, so safe. She had built this life for them, away from everything she used to be. That evening, their neighbor Mr. Park stopped by. He was an old man who lived 3 kilometers away, the closest person to their farm. "Did you hear the news?" he asked, accepting a cup of tea. "What news?" Ji Woo asked. "Strange ships have been spotted near the colony borders. Some people say they're pirates. Others think it might be Crethians." Ji Woo's hand tightened slightly on her cup. "Crethians? The war ended 20 years ago." I know, Mr. Park said. "Probably just rumors. But people are worried. The colony security said they're investigating." After Mr. Park left, Ji Woo stood on her porch again, looking at the darkening sky. The stars were starting to appear. Thousands of them. Somewhere up there, among those stars, were the Crethians, the species that humanity had fought for 10 bloody years, the species she had helped defeat. They had signed a peace treaty. They had agreed to stay away from human colonies. But Ji Woo knew better than most that peace treaties were just words on paper. Words could be broken. Sten, she touched her pendant again, feeling the crossed blades under her fingers. Inside her, something old and cold stirred. A part of her she had buried deep, hoping it would stay buried forever. "It's nothing," she whispered to herself. "Just rumors," but she didn't believe it. In her experience, rumors usually had truth hidden inside them. That night, Ji Woo checked all the doors and windows twice before going to bed. She lay awake for a long time, listening to the sounds of her house, the soft breathing of her children in their rooms, the wind outside, the distant calls of night animals. Everything seemed peaceful. Everything seemed safe, but Ji Woo knew better than to trust appearances. She had learned that lesson a long time ago, in a different life. A life where she had been known by another name, a name that still made enemies tremble when they heard it whispered in the dark. The ghost, Baba Yaga, the nightmare that walked like a woman. 3 days after Mr. Park's visit, Ji Woo needed to go to the colony's main settlement. They were running low on supplies that she couldn't grow or make herself. Medicine, tools, and parts for the irrigation system. It was a 6-hour trip by ground transport, there and back. She didn't want to go. Something felt wrong. The air felt different, heavy somehow. But they needed those supplies, and the children would be fine for a few hours. Teo was responsible. He would take care of his younger siblings. "I'll be back before dark," Ji Woo told them at breakfast. "Teo, you're in charge. Keep the doors locked. Don't let anyone in unless you know them." "Yes, Mom," Teo said. He looked at her curiously. Ji Woo forced herself to smile. "No. Nothing. I just want you to be careful. Can you do that for me?" "We'll be fine," Hana said. "We're not babies." "I know," Ji Woo said. She hugged each of them, holding on a little longer than usual. "I love you all. Remember that." She left at dawn, driving the old ground transport across the empty plains. The settlement was far away, and the road was rough. As she drove, she kept checking her communication device. No messages. Everything was quiet. But the feeling wouldn't leave her. Something was coming. She could sense it. Back at the farm, the children went about their morning routine. Teo made breakfast, while Hana and Hyun-woo set the table. They ate together, then started their school lessons. Everything was normal. Everything was boring, in the way that normal life usually is. Around midday, Hyun-woo saw something through the window. "There are ships in the sky," he said. Tae-oh looked up from his studies. He walked to the window and felt his blood turn cold. 3 large ships were descending from the clouds. They were dark and angular, designed for war, not trade. He recognized them from history lessons. Krethian warships. "Get away from the windows," Tae-oh said quietly. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. "Hana, take Hyun-woo to the basement." "Now." "What's happening?" Hana asked, fear in her voice. "Just do it." "Go." Hana grabbed Hyun-woo's hand and ran toward the basement stairs. Tae-oh went to his mother's room and opened her closet. He remembered her showing him once, years ago, where she kept an emergency weapon, a small pistol, hidden in a false panel. He found it and checked it like she had taught him. It was loaded. His hands were still shaking. The ships landed near the house, crushing the crops under their weight. Doors opened, and soldiers poured out. They were tall, much taller than humans, with gray skin and 4 arms. Krethians. They wore combat armor and carried weapons that hummed with energy. Tae-oh ran to the basement. Hana and Hyun-woo were hiding behind some storage boxes, clutching each other. "Listen to me," Tae-oh said. "No matter what happens, stay quiet. Don't come out until Mom comes home." "Tae-oh, I'm scared," Hyun-woo whispered. "I know. Me too. But we have to be brave." The front door exploded inward. Heavy footsteps echoed through the house. Tae-oh heard voices speaking in the Krethian language, harsh and guttural. They were searching the house, breaking things, looking for them. He aimed the pistol at the basement stairs, trying to keep it steady. He was 16 years old. He had never hurt anyone in his life, but he would protect his siblings. His mother had taught him that family came first, always. A Krethian soldier appeared at the top of the stairs. It saw Tae-oh and the weapon and made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Human child with toy gun," it said in broken human language. "Put down. Come with us. No hurt. Go away," Tae-oh shouted, his voice cracked. The Krethian started down the stairs. Tae-oh fired. The shot hit the soldier's armor and bounced off harmlessly. The Krethian moved faster than Tae-oh expected, crossing the distance in 2 long strides. It grabbed the pistol with one hand and Tae-oh with another, lifting him off the ground like he weighed nothing. "No!" Hana screamed, running out from the hiding spot. 2 more Krethians came down the stairs. They grabbed Hana and Hyun-woo, who was crying now, calling for his mother. The children struggled, but it was useless. The Krethians were too strong. They were carried out of the house and across the ruined fields to the waiting ships. Inside, Tae-oh saw dozens of other children, all from the colony. Some were crying. Others sat in shocked silence. All of them were scared. The Krethians put them in holding cells, metal cages built into the ship's walls. Tae-oh kept his arms around Hana and Hyun-woo, trying to comfort them even though he felt helpless. An officer came by, a Krethian with more decorations on its armor. It looked at the children with cold, dark eyes. "You are prisoners of Krethian dominion," it announced. "You are valuable. Your government will trade for you. Behave, and you live. Resist, and you suffer. Simple." "Why are you doing this?" an older girl asked. "The war is over." "War never over," the officer said. "War only pauses. Your people have things we want. Technology, resources. Now they give us, or children die. Simple." The ships took off, leaving Hansong 7 behind. Through the small window in their cell, Tae-oh watched his home disappear below. The farm where they had been safe. The fields where they had worked. The house where their mother would return to find them gone. "Mom will come for us," Hyunwoo said between sobs. "Yes," Tae-oh said firmly. "She will find us. I know she will." He believed it. He didn't know why, but he believed it with complete certainty. His mother would come. She would save them. There was something about her, something she had never told them, but something he had always sensed. A strength that went deeper than farming and cooking and teaching. A strength that felt dangerous. Hours later, Ji-woo returned home. She saw the ships first, their dark shapes still visible against the sky in the distance. Her heart stopped. She pushed the ground transport to its maximum speed, racing across the plains. When she reached the farm, she knew immediately what had happened. The house was torn apart, the fields were ruined, and her children were gone. She fell to her knees in the dirt, a scream building in her throat. But she didn't scream. She sat there, breathing slowly, forcing herself to think clearly. Panic wouldn't help. Emotion wouldn't help. She needed to be what she used to be. Ji-woo stood up and walked through the destroyed house, looking for clues. She found Krethian boot prints, weapon discharge marks, and finally, a piece of equipment one soldier had dropped. It was a communicator, standard Krethian military issue. She picked it up and studied it. Yes, she knew this model. She knew all their models. Ji-woo went to the basement. The forbidden room. She unlocked the door and stood in front of her past. The weapons, the gear, the medals, the photograph of her younger self, surrounded by the other members of Ghost Unit. She began putting on the tactical suit, piece by piece. It still fit perfectly. She loaded weapons and checked their charges. She packed equipment into a field bag. And finally, she looked at herself in a small mirror on the wall. The woman looking back wasn't a peaceful farmer anymore. She was a soldier, a hunter, a ghost. "You took my children," she whispered. "You took them, and now you will learn what mothers are capable of." She touched the pendant around her neck one last time. Then, she locked the room behind her and walked out of the house. The Baba Yaga was awake, and she was coming for blood. Ji-woo drove through the night, heading to the colony's main communication center. She needed information, and she needed it fast. The Krethian communicator she had found was useful, but it wasn't enough. She needed to know where they had taken the children, how many ships were involved, and what their demands were. The communication center was busy when she arrived. People were panicking, crying, demanding answers. Colony security was overwhelmed. Over 40 children had been taken from different settlements across Hansong 7. The Krethians had broadcast a message to Earth's government. Surrender, advanced military technology, and resource rights, or the children would die. Ji-woo pushed through the crowd to a terminal in the corner. She inserted a small chip into the port, a chip she had kept hidden for 20 years. The screen flickered and showed a login screen that shouldn't exist. A military network that was supposed to be decommissioned after the war. But some networks never really shut down. Some ghosts never really die. She entered her old codes, not knowing if they would still work. The screen went black for a moment. Then text appeared. Identity confirmed. Welcome back, Agent 7. Agent 7. Her old designation. The name she had used when Ji-woo didn't exist yet. When she was just a number and a mission objective. She accessed the classified databases, pulling up everything about the Krethian attack. Ship signatures, known commanders, probable locations. The data streamed across her screen faster than a normal person could read it. But Ji-woo wasn't normal. She had been trained to process information at incredible speeds. "Excuse me, that's a restricted terminal," a security officer said, walking toward her. Ji-woo didn't look up. "Walk away, ma'am. I need you to step away from that terminal right now, or I'll have to." She finally looked at him. Whatever he saw in her eyes made him stop talking. He took a step back, his hand moving toward his weapon, then stopping. He turned and walked away quickly. Ji-woo continued her search. The Crethean ships had been traced to a position in deep space, 3 days' travel from Hansong 7. A small fleet, 6 ships in total, led by a warship called Devastation's Edge. The commander was Admiral Vor Annis, a military hardliner who had opposed the peace treaty from the beginning. She downloaded all the data to her chip and logged out. Then, she sent a message to a very specific address, using a very old encryption code. The message was simple. I need transport. Priority Alpha. She waited. 3 minutes later, a response came. Request acknowledged. Who is this? Ji-woo typed. Agent 7. Ghost Unit. There was a longer pause. Then, Ghost Unit was disbanded. All agents declared dead or retired. She typed, I lied. Another pause. Then, coordinates received. Arrive at 0400 hours. And, Agent 7? It's good to know you're alive. Ji-woo allowed herself a small smile. Some connections never broke. No matter how much time passed, she left the communication center and drove to the coordinates she had been given. It was an old landing pad outside the colony, abandoned and forgotten. But when she arrived, a sleek ship was already waiting there. It was a stealth corvette, the kind used for special operations, the kind that didn't officially exist. A woman in a military uniform stood at the ramp. She was younger than Ji-woo, maybe in her 30s, with sharp eyes and short hair. She saluted. Commander Yuna, Military Intelligence. I was told to provide you with whatever you need. She looked, Ji-woo, up and down. I studied your missions at the academy. They told us you were dead. I got better, Ji-woo said. The ship? Yours, as long as you need it. Weapons, supplies, full stealth capabilities. It's not registered, so technically, it doesn't exist. Yuna paused. What happened? Why are you coming back now? They took my children. Yuna's expression changed. The Crethean raid. Your children were among the hostages? Yes. Then this is a military matter. Let us handle it. We have protocols for hostage situations. No, Ji-woo interrupted. No protocols. No negotiations. No military operations. This is personal. With respect, Agent 7, going in alone is suicide. That fleet has 6 warships and hundreds of soldiers. You're one person. Ji-woo walked past her toward the ship. I've faced worse odds. That was 20 years ago. Ji-woo stopped and turned. Do you know why the Cretheans called me Baba Yaga? It was a legend, a scare story. Legends have truth in them. They called me that because I did things that shouldn't have been possible. I ended the war by myself, Commander. I infiltrated their throne world, eliminated their entire war council in one night, and left before they even knew I was there. The Cretheans signed the peace treaty because they were terrified. Not of humanity, of me. Yuna stared at her. They lied. It was always just me. Why? Why hide the truth? Because I wanted to disappear. I wanted a normal life. And for 20 years, I had it. Ji-woo's voice hardened. Now they've taken that from me. They've taken my children. So I'm going to remind them why they were afraid. She boarded the ship without looking back. After a moment, Yuna followed her inside. At least let me give you intel updates, Yuna said. I can track the fleet, provide communications support, warn you of patrols. Ji-woo considered this. Fine. But no military intervention. No matter what happens, no matter what you see or hear, you do not send in troops. Understood? Understood. Yuna hesitated. What about political consequences? If you do this, if you attack Crethean military assets, it could restart the war. Then they shouldn't have taken my children. Yuna left. and Jiwoo spent the next hour preparing. She checked every weapon, every piece of equipment, every system in the ship. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, muscle memory taking over. It was like putting on an old coat that still fit perfectly. Before she left, a communication came through on a secure channel. It was Ambassador Dae-jung, a high-ranking diplomat. His face appeared on the screen, looking worried. Agent 7. I was informed of your reactivation. I'm not reactivated. This isn't official. Nevertheless, I need to warn you. If you attack the Krethians, there will be consequences. The peace treaty is fragile. Many factions on both sides want war. This could be the excuse they need. I don't care about politics. You should. Your actions could lead to millions of deaths. Is that worth it? Even for your children? Jiwoo was silent for a moment. Then she said, Ask me that question after someone takes your children, Ambassador. Then, we'll talk about what's worth it. Please, think about this. Let the government negotiate. We can get the hostages back safely. No, you can't. Because the Krethians don't fear governments. They don't fear militaries. But they fear me. And they're about to remember why. One of the procketed why. End quote. End quote. End quote. End quote. End quote. End quote. She ended the communication and launched the ship. It rose silently into the night sky, its stealth systems making it invisible to sensors. Below, Hansung 7 grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. Jiwoo set course for the Krethian fleet. 3 days travel. 3 days to prepare. 3 days to become the nightmare that the Krethians had hoped was dead. She looked at a photo she had brought with her, one of her children laughing at the farm. Tae-oh, with his responsible smile. Hana, with her curious eyes. Hyun-woo, with his innocent joy. I'm coming, she whispered. Mama's coming. And heaven help anyone who stands in my way. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, leaving a brief flash of light behind it. In the darkness of space, no one saw it go. No one knew it was coming. But soon, the Krethians would know. Soon, they would remember their nightmares. Soon, the Baba Yaga would be among them. The Krethian fleet hung in deep space like predators waiting for prey. 6 warships arranged in a defensive pattern, their sensors scanning constantly for any approaching threats. Inside the largest ship, Devastation's Edge, the captured children sat in detention cells, scared and uncertain. Tae-oh had counted 3 days since they were taken. 3 days of cold metal walls and poor food and crying children. He tried to keep everyone calm, especially the younger ones. He told them stories, taught them games with their fingers, anything to distract them from their fear. When do you think they'll let us go? A young boy asked. Soon, Tae-oh lied. Our families will get us out soon. But he wasn't sure. The Krethian guards were nervous, talking in their language, checking their weapons constantly. Something had them scared. He didn't know what, but he could feel the tension in the air. In the command center of Devastation's Edge, Admiral Voranis studied the reports coming in from his other ships. 2 patrol vessels had gone silent. No distress calls, no warning. Just silence. When he sent ships to investigate, they found the vessels drifting dead in space, their systems disabled, their crews unconscious or restrained. What weapon could do this without destroying the ships? He demanded. Unknown, Admiral, his second officer replied. The crews say they saw nothing. No ships on sensors, no alerts. Just darkness. And then they woke up bound in their own cargo holds. Impossible. Nothing can bypass our sensors. But even as he said it, Voranis felt a cold fear growing in his chest. He was old enough to remember the war. He had been a junior officer back then, and he had heard the stories. Stories of a human ghost who moved through ships like smoke, who appeared and vanished without warning, who killed without mercy. They had called her Baba Yaga, The Krethian leaders had signed the peace treaty because of her. Not because they were defeated in battle, but because they were terrified. She had killed their entire war council in one night. Nobody knew how she had done it. Nobody even knew what she looked like. She was a shadow, a nightmare, a legend, and the legends said she was dead, that she had died or disappeared after the war. Voranis had believed those legends. He had counted on them. Taking the human children was supposed to be simple. Earth's government would negotiate, give the Dominion what it wanted, and everyone would move on. But now, ships were going silent. And in the back of his mind, a terrible thought was growing. What if the Baba Yaga wasn't dead? Double all patrols, he ordered. I want sensors on maximum range. If anything at all, comes near this fleet, I want to know immediately. But even as he gave the orders, he knew they might be useless. If the legends were true, sensors wouldn't help. Nothing would help. In the darkness between the ships, Jiwoo moved. She had arrived at the fleet 6 hours ago, approaching from below the plane of their formation where sensors were weakest. Her stealth ship hung motionless in space, invisible to their scans. She had spent those 6 hours studying their patrol patterns, their communication frequencies, their weaknesses. Now it was time to work. She put on her combat suit, a black flexible armor that absorbed light and sensor beams. Her weapons were simple. A plasma blade that cut through metal like paper. A small pistol that fired needles containing powerful sedatives, and various tools for disabling electronic systems. She didn't need big guns. She had never needed big guns. Jiwoo launched herself from her ship using a small thruster pack, drifting through space toward the nearest patrol vessel. She landed on its hull without a sound, and crawled to an access port. The lock was military grade, but she had the override codes. All Krethian military systems had the same basic protocols, and she had memorized them all 20 years ago. The airlock opened silently. She slipped inside. The ship had a crew of 12. Jiwoo moved through the corridors like water flowing downhill, silent and inevitable. She found the first guard and put him to sleep with a needle before he could turn around. The second guard was in the engineering section. She dropped from the ceiling above him, and he never knew what hit him. One by one, the crew fell. Some she drugged, others she knocked unconscious. She was careful not to kill anyone, unless absolutely necessary. This wasn't about revenge. This was about getting her children back. Within 30 minutes, the entire crew was bound and unconscious in the cargo hold. Jiwoo disabled the ship's weapons and communication systems, then moved to the next vessel. She did this 3 more times. 4 ships disabled in 6 hours, and the fleet still didn't know she was there. But the main warship would be different. That's where the children were. That's where she needed to go. And it would be heavily guarded, with hundreds of soldiers instead of small patrol crews. Jiwoo approached Devastation's edge carefully. She attached herself to the hull and used a small plasma cutter to burn through the outer armor. It took an hour, working slowly to avoid triggering heat sensors. Finally, she made a hole big enough to squeeze through. She was inside. The ship was massive, with multiple levels and hundreds of rooms. Jiwoo accessed a data terminal and downloaded the ship's layout to her wrist computer. She studied it quickly, finding the detention cells where the children were held. They were 3 decks down. In the most secure section of the ship, she would have to fight her way through. Jiwoo moved deeper into the ship, staying in the maintenance tunnels and ventilation shafts. She could hear Krethian soldiers talking as she passed above them. They were nervous, discussing the missing patrol ships. Some were saying it was the Baba Yaga, others called them cowards, said it was impossible. She smiled grimly. Let them argue. They would learn the truth soon enough. In the armory section, she found Captain Realm, the officer who had led the raid on her farm. He was inspecting weapons, preparing for a fight he didn't understand yet. Jiwoo dropped from a ventilation shaft behind him. He spun around, raising his weapon. She was faster. The plasma blade flashed, cutting his gun in half. He tried to hit her with his lower set of arms, but she ducked under the blow and swept his legs. He crashed to the floor, and before he could get up, she pressed the blade against his throat. "The children you took from Hansong 7, she said quietly. "Where exactly are they?" 5. You're human. How did you get on this ship?" On body mining. Answer the question. You're alone. One human against hundreds of us. You're insane. Ji-woo pressed the blade closer, and Realm felt its heat against his skin. "The children. Now. Detention level 3, cells 40 through 60. His voice was shaking. "But you won't reach them. The Admiral has ordered all security to that area. You'll never." She hit him in the head with the handle of her blade, and he went unconscious. Ji-woo bound him and left him in the armory. Then, she continued toward the detention level. Alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed in the corridors. They had found the bodies in the armory. They knew someone was on the ship now. Good. Let them panic. Ji-woo reached a main corridor and found it blocked by 20 Creathian soldiers in full combat armor. They raised their weapons when they saw her. "Surrender, human," one of them shouted. "You are outnumbered." Ji-woo looked at them calmly. Then she reached up and touched the pendant around her neck, the crossed blades behind the broken crown. "I am Ji-woo, mother of 3. You took my children." Her voice was cold, emotionless. "And I am the Baba Yaga, the nightmare you hoped was dead. Now get out of my way, or learn why your leaders were afraid." They fired. She moved. What happened next would be told as a legend among the Creathians for generations. Some said she disappeared and reappeared behind them. Others said she moved so fast she was just a blur. A few swore she walked through their weapons fire like it wasn't there. The truth was simpler and more terrible. Ji-woo had been trained for 20 years to do one thing perfectly: fight. And when she fought, she became something more than human. She became the weapon that had ended a war. When it was over, all 20 soldiers lay unconscious on the floor. Ji-woo stood among them, barely breathing hard. Her suit had taken a few hits but held. She was uninjured. She stepped over the bodies and continued walking. The detention level was close now. Her children were close now, and nothing in this universe would stop her from reaching them. The detention level was chaos. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Soldiers ran in every direction, shouting orders, weapons ready. Ji-woo watched them from a ventilation shaft above, waiting for the right moment to move. Below her, in the cells, Teo heard the alarms and felt his heart beat faster. He had never seen Creathians scared before. But now, they were checking their weapons constantly, looking over their shoulders. "What's going on?" Hana whispered, holding Hyun-woo close. "I don't know," Teo said. "But maybe help is coming." A guard ran past their cell, and Teo heard him talking into his communicator. The words were in Creathian. But one phrase stood out, spoken with pure terror. "Baba Yaga." Teo felt something click in his mind. Baba Yaga. The old legend from Earth, about a witch who lived in the forest and punished those who did evil. But why would Creathian soldiers be talking about an Earth legend, unless it wasn't just a legend? Ji-woo moved down from the ventilation shaft, landing silently behind a group of 5 guards. They didn't notice her until it was too late. She moved between them like a dancer, her plasma blade cutting through their weapons. Within seconds, all 5 were on the ground, unconscious. She walked toward the cells, and the remaining guards saw her. They raised their weapons, but their hands were shaking. "It's her," one of them whispered. "The ghost." "The ghost." "Fire," another shouted. They fired, but Ji-woo was already moving. She rolled behind a support pillar as energy bolts hit the metal around her. She threw a small device that burst into blinding light and deafening sound. While the guards were disoriented, she rushed forward. The fight was brutal but short. These were regular soldiers, trained for combat but not for fighting something like her. She moved through them with cold efficiency, disabling each one without hesitation. When the last guard fell, silence returned to the detention level. Only the quiet crying of frightened children filled the air. Jiwoo walked to the cells and looked at the scared faces watching her. Then she saw them. Tae-oh, Hana, and Hyun-woo, pressed against the bars of their cell. "Mom?" Tae-oh whispered, not quite believing what he was seeing. Jiwoo's expression, which had been hard as stone during the fighting, softened. She ran to their cell and started working on the lock. Her hands were shaking now, just a little. "I'm here," she said. "Mama's here. You're safe now." The lock clicked open, and her children rushed out. They threw their arms around her, and she held them tight, breathing in the smell of their hair, feeling their hearts beating against hers. "I knew you'd come," Tae-oh said, his voice breaking. "I knew it." "Of course I came," Jiwoo said. "Nothing in this universe could stop me." Hyun-woo looked up at her, his face wet with tears. "The guards were scared of you. They called you Baba Yaga." "We'll talk about that later," Jiwoo said. "Right now, we need to get everyone out." She moved to the other cells, opening them one by one. 43 children poured out, confused and frightened but hopeful. They looked at Jiwoo with wide eyes. This small human woman, who had somehow fought through an entire warship. "Listen to me," Jiwoo said clearly. "I'm taking you home, but you need to follow my instructions exactly. Can you do that?" The children nodded. "Good. Stay together. Stay quiet." She led them through the corridors, moving carefully. They encountered more guards, but Jiwoo put herself between the children and danger every time. She fought like she had during the war, protecting the vulnerable, giving no ground. They reached the hangar bay where the Krethian ships had stored several transport vessels. Jiwoo quickly broke into one and started its systems. It was large enough for all the children. "Everyone inside," she ordered. "Strap in. This is going to be rough." As the children boarded, Jiwoo heard heavy footsteps behind her. She turned to see Admiral Voranis entering the hangar with a squad of elite guards. They formed a line between her and the transport ship. "So it's true," Voranis said slowly. "The Baba Yaga lives. I had hoped the legends were exaggerated." "They weren't," Jiwoo said. "You cannot leave this ship. I have over 400 soldiers on board. You may have defeated some of them, but you are still just one person. Surrender, and I promise the children will be returned safely." "No. Be reasonable. You've proven your point. We underestimated humans. But this doesn't have to end in more violence." Jiwoo looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death, too much war. "You came to my home. You destroyed my peace. You took my children. And now you ask me to be reasonable? We were desperate. The Dominion is failing. We need resources. Technology. We meant to negotiate. We. Tepigly. We. By taking children hostage?" Voranis was silent. "You made a mistake, Admiral. A terrible mistake. You see, I left the war behind because I was tired of killing. I built a quiet life, raised my family, and hoped I would never have to be that person again." She took a step forward. "But you brought that person back. You reminded me of what I am, what I've always been. And what is that? A mother. And there is nothing more dangerous in this universe than a mother protecting her children." She moved. The elite guards fired, but she was faster. She flowed through them like water through cracks, her plasma blade flashing. These were better fighters than the regular soldiers, but it didn't matter. She had been trained by the best, fought the worst, and survived things that should have killed her. Within minutes, the elite guards were down. Jiwoo stood before Voranis, her blade at his throat. "Please," he whispered. "I'm giving you mercy," Jiwoo said coldly. "I'm letting you live, but you're going to deliver a message to your high command. Tell them The ghost has returned. Tell them that if any Crethean ever threatens a human child again, I won't stop with one fleet. I won't stop with your military. I will come to your throne world like I did before. And this time, I won't leave anyone alive to sign a treaty. Voronese nodded, his whole body shaking. Good. She lowered the blade. This ship will remain functional. You can return home. But the other ships in your fleet are disabled. It will take you days to repair them. By then, we'll be long gone. She walked past him to the transport ship. At the door, she turned back. And Admiral, teach your children a new lesson. Teach them about the human mother who crossed space to save her young. Make sure they understand what happens to those who threaten families. Make sure they never forget. She boarded the transport, and the doors closed. The ship's engines roared to life, and it lifted off the hangar floor. Voronese watched it go, unable to move, unable to do anything but survive. The transport broke through the hangar shields and entered open space. Ji-woo piloted it carefully, heading toward human space. Behind them, the Crethean fleet remained crippled and still. In the passenger section, Teo sat with his siblings, watching his mother pilot the ship. He saw the way she moved, the way she handled the controls with expert precision. He saw the combat suit, the weapons, the hard expression that slowly softened as they got farther from danger. Mom, he said quietly. Who are you? Really? Ji-woo was quiet for a moment. Then she turned to face her children, and all the other children watching her. A long time ago, before you were born, there was a war. I was a soldier in that war. I did things that needed to be done, but things I'm not proud of. When the war ended, I wanted to leave that life behind. I wanted to be just a mother, just a farmer, just a normal person. But you're not normal, Hana said. It wasn't an accusation, just a statement of fact. No, Ji-woo admitted. I'm not. I'm someone who was trained to fight, to survive, to protect. And when you were taken, that person came back. Because being your mother is more important than anything else. More important than peace, more important than politics, more important than who I used to be or who I wanted to be. Are you going to have to fight again? Hyunwoo asked. I hope not, Ji-woo said. I really hope not. But if anyone ever threatens you again, then yes. I will fight. I will always fight for you. She pulled them close, and they sat together as the transport carried them home. 3 days later, they arrived at Hansong 7. The colony greeted them with tears and celebration. Families were reunited. Children were safe. And the story spread across human space like wildfire. The story of Ji-woo, the quiet farmer who had been a legendary warrior. The story of the Baba Yaga, who had crossed space alone to save her children. The story of what happens when you threaten a mother's family. In Crethean space, the story spread too. But there, it was told as a warning, a reminder of why the peace treaty existed, a lesson about humans and what they were capable of when pushed too far. Months passed. Ji-woo and her children rebuilt their farm. The fields grew green again. Life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be. But now, Teo understood why his mother taught them to fight. Why she was always watching the horizon. Why she kept that locked room in the basement. And sometimes, when he looked at his mother working in the garden, he saw both people at once. The gentle mother, who sang while cooking dinner, and the warrior, who had fought through a warship to save her children. Both were real. Both were his mother, and he loved both of them. One evening, as the sun set over the fields, Hyunwoo asked, Will the Cretheans come back? Ji-woo smiled, touching the pendant around her neck. No, my son, they won't. Because now they remember. They remember what it means to anger a mother. And that's a lesson that will last for generations. She looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, Crethean mothers were telling their children stories. stories about the human ghost, the Baba Yaga, the nightmare that walks like a woman. And those stories would keep her children safe. Better than any weapon, better than any army. Fear of what she could become would protect them. Ji-woo had peace again. But it was a different kind of peace now. A peace earned in blood, built on respect, maintained by the memory of what she had done, and that was fine with her. Because in the end, she had what mattered most. Her children were home, and they were safe.